Alright, well, welcome back to the channel. GURPS Spaceships is what we're talking about today. And I've had a lot of fun with this stuff lately. I've been making some spaceships and just having some combat for funsies. Been in the space mood, I guess, lately, one could say. And I thought I would take a moment. I have never properly done a video and gone over my feelings on GURPS Spaceships series here. This is something of just an overview, a quick overview of what I like and what I don't like so much about this stuff. And well, let's jump right in. First off, as with all things GURPS, the degree and the detail that they go to give you choices for all the different systems that you can build into a spaceship is amazing. I love it. It's great. But also, with all things GURPS, the layout and the artwork is a little uninspiring. That's one of the cooler pictures, I suppose. You end up with, here's what a spaceship looks like. The stats for a spaceship, Ulysses class Frontier yacht, for instance. You can see it's just listed each system in by hull number, and then your overall stats here: hit points, stability rating, handling, health, move. So kind of boring. They don't give you a kind of a character sheet. I would have loved to have seen a nice character sheet first off. When I get a new book or a new system, I'll often go get the character sheet, look at that, and reference the character sheet while trying to figure out the rules. What applies to what goes where to be recorded, and then what attributes affect what for combat, for instance. So I went ahead and had to make my own character sheet for spaceships, stat sheet, and I wanted to make it a little bit more interesting than what you see here, this boring stuff. So that's my major gripe right off the start with GURPS Spaceships. These guys are literal rocket scientists, basically. Dr. Crom, I don't know, he's a physicist of some sort, I believe. Smart folks. These guys know how to make a game. They know how to make it realistic. I love it. But maybe they're lacking in the artistic or the creative touch when it comes to publishing these books. So I find when I'm trying to run games, sometimes I have to really work hard to inject that creative spark into my games, because there's just nothing. There's just nothing there from this artwork, from the books themselves. They're really just rules books. That is, let me see here, the exact opposite situation I have with a game like this, Rifts. Full of awesome artwork, just inspiration everywhere, but the rules are lacking. It's like two polar opposite games, and I love them both. I love them both for what they are. Sometimes I wonder if Kevin Simbita and Steve Jackson got together, or Sean Punch, and they could make the perfect system. Best rules, something like GURPS, and the best art and setting, creation, creativity, inspiration in Rifts. I digress. Back to my character sheet for ships. This is what I came up with for my space games. It's got all the usual stuff. Just I added some pretty little icons and things. Your spaceship is broken down into 3 hull sections. You can write them in here as you want. It's front, middle, and aft, back of the ship. Then you can write in some stats, length, height, width. Draw 2 quick silhouette pictures. You can go here and here. And then just an overall arty sketch of what the ship looks like. The overall look of your ship is completely up to you, and there's not a lot of guidelines to inform how your ship looks. So it's pretty much a free form, whatever you want it to look like. But of course, your drawing will always be inspired or informed by the location of certain things in your hull. For instance, maybe you've got all your rocket boosters or your thrusters at the back of the ship. Then you draw them on the back of your ship. You can have your engine thrusters anywhere in the hull. You could have them all in the front, so you'd have like some kind of a front mounted engines. That'd look cool. That'd be interesting. Anyways, you could draw that in as you see fit. Here is the just some basic stats, overall stats of the ship. There's a space to write in the class, its home port, its size, its tech level, the cost of the thing if you care to add that up. And then down here we've got life support, slower than light travel fuel, and faster than light travel star drives. Down here you can record your armor by section, front, rear, center, and then if you have shields, force fields, that kind of thing. Record your ammo here, gun ammo, missile ammo, any kind of crew requirements to run this ship, to pilot this sucker, and of course your weapon loadout down here, what you're packing. So that's my little artistic attempt at making a character sheet. Oh yeah, and here are the PowerPoints. Depending on how many reactors you load into these ships, you will have anywhere from 1 to up to 8, I think, on some of the bigger ships. So that covers up to 8 there. I've never had more than 3 personally on the ships that I run, but higher tech levels certainly get more power in smaller packages. So that's the character sheet. So problem number 1 that I had with the GURPS Spaceships solved. Okay, we got the cool little character sheet, gets me going there. As mentioned, spaceships system, like building spaceships process is pretty in-depth. You get everything from mining and refinery to hangar bays, just open space, power plants, ram scoops, weapons of course, armor, robotic arms and external clamps, cargo holds, cloaking devices, control rooms, engineering rooms, some less sexy things there like that, soft landing systems, space sails, solar panel arrays, sensor arrays, lots of good stuff. Anything you can think of that would ever come up in science fiction, you can outfit your ship with it. Gives you rules on how it's used, how it's broken, how it's repaired, and how much it costs, how many people it takes to run it, workstations, as in like how many people can fit in that system. It's different for all different systems, and it tells you the repair skill on how to repair everything. Awesome stuff. Now, it's so generic and so in-depth that they give you all the different realistic, as realistic as they can be with science fiction stuff, speculation and all. They give you realistic reaction engines, and there's a lot of them. Super fusion pulse drive, advanced fusion pulse drive. There is the fusion rocket, the fusion torch, the super fusion torch, blah blah blah. Antimatter plasma torches, antimatter pion drive, thermal rockets, and then there's just good old super science reactionless engines, reactionless thrusters. Okay, so this this has been, sometimes we all want to just pick up our role-playing book and go. We want to start running a game. We don't want to start we don't always want to start creating the setting from scratch, and GURPS is often needs that, and Spaceships is no different. When you start wanting to play a game, you gotta go through this, and you kind of got to parse out what technologies are available in your setting, what drives are available. You can pare down the list simply by your tech level, but that still gives you like for instance, tech level 10, which I usually like to play at, that gives you, I've still got 8 choices, different fusion torches, antimatter thermal rockets. You've got the fusion pulse drives to choose from. You've still got the old school rockets. And they're all very different in output, cost, and size. So I have found that I really need to just settle on, for the setting, everybody is using 1, maybe 2 different drive types. Maybe the high-tech, the leading technological empire is using the better option of the tech for the tech level, and everybody else is maybe using the slightly lesser option. And you got to go with that, because things get really wild because of the differences in thrust capabilities and delta V for your per fuel tank. It is just, I find, just too unwieldy. So what I have done, and seems to work great, is I give every ship reactionless engines. I just hand wave it, and that is the technology of the day. It is the best, and it runs off your reactor. It's basically an electric engine, and you can just thrust forever in interstellar space. Just bomb around forever. You'll never run out of gas until your nuclear reactor runs out. I find that polices itself, because speed and movement is so slow, and bodies like planets are so far apart, it still takes weeks and months of travel. That's fine. What gets interesting is then the star drives. And I just, again, there's a couple choices on how you want to run your star drives. The warp drives, there's jump drives. I always go with jump drives. And the way they kind of recommend that you run star drives is it's a powered system. It just runs on electricity. But I did want fuel to be a problem, to be a consumable, and to be something that they had to resource manage. So I've given everybody in the setting reactionless engines, so they can drive or fly around in their star systems pretty well endlessly if they're willing to wait, or they can use star drives. And these suckers take fuel, and they run off of pure hydrogen. Now, I went with hydrogen for a couple reasons. It's plentiful. It's easy to refuel if you have a refinery on board or mining system on board. You can scoop it with a ram scoop by flying through gas giants, stuff like that. You can mine it from water or ice from asteroids and smaller planets, stuff like that. So that has introduced a lot of fun for my setting. Using star drives, dependent on fuel, hydrogen. I also keep it pretty expensive to do a jump. Each jump drains an entire fuel tank. So if you and each drive in my setting lets you jump, I believe it is 1 parsec. Just checking my rules here. I think it's 1 parsec. And you need generally 2. So, well, I modify that depending on the setting and how big my galactic map is, but you get the idea. I wanted to tie fuel tanks, fuel consumption to the star drives, not the sub light speed thrusters, and that seems to work out very well. Now, another problem with the Spaceship series I have found, I do not like the combat. I have read over and over again how the base system works. It is very fairly abstract, with some ridiculous amounts of calculations and things that I do not care to get into. It gets into details that I don't care to know about, or don't want to bother calculating, certainly, while trying to play and run the game. And then it is vague in the points where I really wish it wouldn't be, such as maneuvering. And I realize that this is not probably as realistic, but I want dogfight style hex grid mini combat. That's the whole point for me playing spaceships, GURPS Spaceships, is I want combat, I want it on a hex grid, and yeah, I want to calculate those ranges and use those weapons according to range. So I have come up with my own combat method as well. That will be coming in a later video. I'll do an example of that. You've seen it if you've watched my Space Randos series. I've used it there a little bit, but it's a lot of fun. It's easy. It's basically a rehash of the basic hand-to-hand combat stuff. Just normal combat, just using spaceships. I don't know why they couldn't have done that in the first place. Again, these guys are way smarter than me, so they thought of way better, cooler things to do with it, I'm sure. But for dummies like me, I'm a simple man. I want my simple, smooth-running combat, but I do like it still to be a little bit informed by reality, which GURPS has in spades. So sometimes I have to make GURPS meet me in the middle, and I'm not afraid to do house ruling. So that's kind of fun for me anyway. So I've done that. There is where is it? I think it's in the Spaceships 4. I've got, don't have 1 here. I have 1 through 5 or 7, I think. In PDF, I've had to print these. Another gripe I have, I wish these were available in hard copy. At the time, maybe they are now for print on demand, but I have not in the past ever seen these available. You can only buy these in digital, which is annoying because I really like these. These are great. Give you some example ships. Some example ships, and as we come to this, another gripe of mine. They've worked up some great examples. Not bad. They kind of get one of each, get an idea for each class. Like fleet carriers, they do one tech level 10 with super science, and then they go on. Oh, there's 2 actually, and then there's 2. Once again, GURPS is just so generic that I have a hard time. I don't usually ever find anything I actually want in these examples. It's sad. Maybe it's me. I don't know. But I go to these and maybe I'll find one ship, like the liners, the trade liners. In my tech level game, I always run a tech level 10 with super science. The freight carrier, the Ricardo class Lash. Nope, not what I want. The Prosperity class is pretty cool. That fits my setting. And that's it. Far hauler, the Kiev's far hauler is great as well. I've used that actually. So out of these books, I may get 2 or 3 out of the whole book, usable examples in my specific tech level and my specific super science options available. It's just so varied. Your setting can be so much different than anybody else's. It's hard. I understand. It's hard to make something for everybody in these. But that's where games like Starfinder, Stars Without Number, stuff like that, I think have an easier time getting an audience, because you come into those games and they're kind of just, this is what the tech level is. There is nothing above or below this, really, and go. GURPS is too generous, gives us too many options, and that gives most people analysis paralysis. We'll chalk that not necessarily as a problem with the game. That's user error, in my opinion, for the most part. Anyways, moving on. There was this nice little fighters, carriers, and mechas. No, is it in this one? Warships and spaceships. They do have a tactical space combat rule set here, and darned if I can get my head around it. I have tried less to understand this one, because this one is pretty great. It gives you all the great actions that you can do per turn, actions during combat, depending on who you are in the ship. Like the engineering guy can add more power to thrusters, or fix things that have been shot up. They can jury rig stuff during combat rounds. The sensor tech guy can do scans of enemy ships and find weak spots. The pilot, of course, can do evasive maneuvers or different kind of things. The gunners can all-out attack. They can point defense. They can aim. Interesting stuff. So the basic combat is great that way. They do lay that stuff out. It's just the movement stuff, the advantaged position stuff, and then trying to calculate different combat round sizes, because again, your ships can be drastically fast, different speeds, depending on the technologies that you use. Once you kind of settle on a technology for your setting, you will always be generally using, for me, I'm always using the standard 20-second round. And it's always in the standard column, but like, see what I mean? Like this is a little overly complicated for what I need. Others may find this useful. It's so generic. It's so flexible. You can have ridiculously high-tech and fast ships. Hasn't been needed by me. This book presented a hex grid-based tactical combat system, and yeah, unusable for me. I stick with my own. Stay tuned for an example of my little house-ruled simpleton version of space combat. Maybe it'll work for you too. I will also be creating, I made some random tables for my Space Randos game, of course, where I can quickly roll up random spaceships, rolling random systems, and they land in random locations in the ship. So it makes for some interesting times. I really like generating ships, and then you can fight them, pit them against each other. So we'll do that, maybe make a couple ships, and then do a little combat example showing how they blow each other up. And we will get into more analyzing another gripe some people have with spaceships about how deadly the ship weapons are. They say it equates to basically you're flying around in an egg using hammers for weapons on each other. I don't know. I haven't found that constantly to be the problem. It's not actually bad. Because again, I've simplified the combat rules and ignore things like when it says you get hit by a gun or a missile, you take into account, you multiply the damage by the delta V, the velocity of the ship. Yeah, that can get to be brutal. Things are just being vaporized. Ships are being vaporized in one missile or one cannon hit. But I hand wave that away because in my view, the ships are mostly at the same, they're mostly at the same speed as they're hurling through space. They're just kind of turning and maneuvering on each other, so there's never going to be a huge discrepancy, and I don't want to track it, to be honest. More on that, you'll see how that works. You can take it or leave it. All of these things will be available for download from the usual spot. I share all my stuff online if you want to try it out for yourself. Anyways, more to come on GURPS Spaceships. Roll on.